What's up, everyone? On this episode of the Creative Noah podcast, I'm joined by Wizz Selvey. Wizz is a brand and retail strategist who has worked in the industry for 20 years, helping businesses at varying stages of their development stand out from the crowd. Wizz honed her skills and developed her instincts for trend forecasting, working at Selfridges for 12 years as head of buying, where she helped bring many now well-established brands to market, most notably global makeup brand Charlotte Tilbury. Always goal-driven and looking for new challenges, Wizz left Selfridges and went on to work for Soho House until making the decision to go it alone. And in 2018, Wizz set up her own consulting company, Wizz&Co, that now has a client list ranging from small startup businesses coming into the market to well-established multi-million pound brands like Unilever, Next and Ocado. She speaks on stages and panels all over the world to hundreds of people and has recently been voted one of the top retail experts of 2024. Wizz talks us through her journey and gives us some incredible insights with her top 5 tips to stand out, market yourself and make money. I've put all the links to the Wizz&Co website and their social media in the show notes for you to check out while you're listening to the podcast. Wizz really is an expert in her field, and I believe her advice will be useful and inspiring to a lot of people, no matter what industry you're in. Let's get into it. Wizz, thank you for coming on the Creative Noah podcast. It is much appreciated. I'm going to get you to do a little introduction to yourself in a minute, but I have got you on for quite a specific reason, because you have got a very specific skill set that I do believe is going to be very useful and add a lot of value to a lot of the creative artists, entrepreneurs that are hopefully listening. So Wizz, can you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name's Wizz, and I am a brand and retail strategist.
For those that don't know, what does a brand and retail strategist do?
I help businesses to scale. So I've been working in the retail industry for 20 years. I've worked with thousands of brands over the years and worked for some major retail corporations. So I know what it takes for a brand to stand out, and also to how it can scale as well. So I think there's a number of different facets to that. Is how do you get the standout in the market and get the recognition that you're looking for? How do you market a brand to create the hype for it? And ultimately, how do you scale it and make lots of money?
Which I think is, as someone that's I've been on an artistic journey, but sort of exploring that artistic journey. I think that is something that's going to be really useful for people listening because, well, let's face it, we all want to sell the work that we create to have a better life or whatever that is. So can we go back? We know each other from university. We're going to start showing our age here now, a good 20 years ago, plus probably now. Am I right? You studied textile design and retail management at uni. So you always had that creative side, but also balancing that alongside a sort of probably more sensible career goal, somewhere that you actually probably take that creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I took one step at a time, really. And actually, my parents were really encouraging with do what you enjoy because you're going to succeed at it. So I enjoyed art, I enjoyed textiles, went into textile design and did work experience, a placement in my second year, and realised I didn't want to be a designer. So
why?
Good question. I haven't actually really reflected on that. I don't know. I knew I wanted to do something that was creative, but also had a business angle to it as well. I can't remember the exact point around that, but I liked the creativity, but I don't know. I don't know.
Would you say, when you went to university, you were a creative person, presumably, and you thought, I've got to do something creative. I just find it interesting because obviously you did the course that balanced the business side with the creative, but then you took a more leaning side. Did you just do the thing and go, starving artist syndrome, you're not going to make any money being a textile designer?
No, not at all. And actually, when I went to university, the course wasn't retail management. It was only textile design. They only introduced that in my second year. So I could then specialise in my third year. So it was, I don't know, it just kind of evolved in that way, which actually I was really grateful for. Because, yeah, they hadn't even invented that part of the course when I applied.
And had the retail and the management side of it been something that you thought about until they introduced that in the course? Or
honestly, I don't think I was thinking about very much. It was like one step at a time. And yeah, what do I enjoy? And university looks quite fun, and we had quite a lot of fun.
We did have a lot of fun.
So
probably too much fun.
Exactly, it was a hazy time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of one foot in front of the other, really. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I went to a very academic school, and all of my friends went to be doctors and accountants and stuff that, God, I thought was quite dull and boring. And everyone used to take the mickey out of me saying, "Oh, you're doing fake A levels," because I was doing art and textiles and English.
Oh, I see. So you were like the creative black sheep.
I was, yeah.
Okay.
But my mum was an art teacher. My dad was a businessman. So again, very different. But yeah, they said, do what you enjoy. And so I went to do an art foundation course. And then I liked textiles. And so it literally was one step at a time. I didn't have this big vision of what I wanted to do.
Do you think that became clearer when they introduced the fashion retail, the retail management side to the course? Was that something that you just naturally found more interesting? Yeah,
I did. And also one of my mum's friends was a buyer, so I had a chat with her and I thought, actually, this looks quite interesting, kind of doing something around, I suppose, fashion and being in an office and having that environment of creativity, but also running a business as well. So yeah, I mean, maybe that was an influence from my parents as well. So yeah, it was just doing as much as finding out what I didn't want to do as to help me find out what I did want to do.
Which I think is important
as
well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you came out of uni and then you were presumably looking for fashion jobs, but recruiters actually told you probably weren't going to
they said, you'll never get a job in buying.
Why do you think that? Is it just such a competitive industry?
Yes, yeah. Massively competitive. And I think, it's every girl's dream to be a buyer at Selfridges.
And we'll get onto some of that.
Pretty cool job.
So Selfridges, you came in, but you didn't go in as a buyer, did you? You went.
No, because the recruiters told me you'll never get a job in buying because you don't have any experience. So how did you get the experience? I hadn't done work experience in that field. So I thought, well, there's kind of two sides to buying. One is the buying and going out and sourcing the product and writing the orders and having that vision of what the customer wants and seeing that, I suppose, come to life and executing it in store. There was no online then. And then...
God, we are showing our age, aren't we? There really wasn't, though, was there?
There wasn't, no.
Okay, yep. That's good to know, though. Wow.
And then, there's a very important stock side of things, like how much stock do you order? What's the budget? And so I went in on that kind of merchandising side, thinking hopefully I'll be able to move over, even though all of the recruiters said, you can never move over. And I was like, God, they're all so negative. Anyway, I went in and then my job got made redundant after 3 months, which was actually a blessing in disguise because they were restructuring. So I kind of hung on in there, doing like an extra 1 month at a time. After 6 months, my 6-month kind of probation bit had finished and ended up moving over to buying much sooner than I probably would have done if I'd waited for a job opportunity to come up.
How old are you at this point then?
22.
Oh, so it was literally straight after?
Straight after uni, yeah.
Wow. And what's going into a big company? I mean, Selfridges must have been, like you say, it's every girl's dream. They're like the, apart from some of the Harrods or whatever, they're the big department store where you've got every brand that you could possibly imagine, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I loved it. I was there for 12 years, which I suppose proof is in the pudding. It was quite a crazy place to work, but quite entrepreneurial in its own way. So I loved it, and I made some great friends there and moved around a lot.
And what does the role, presumably you're entering as a junior buyer, and what sort of stuff are you doing?
Oh, quite dull. You're literally loading orders onto a computer system.
Oh, gosh.
And communicating with the suppliers, chasing the stock, making sure it comes in on time. I mean, people have this image of this very glamorous life as a buyer. And when you get to buyer, you do have some of those perks and you go to fashion weeks and you get, when I was a beauty buyer, you get like lots of free products and all of that stuff's really cool. But that's quite a small percentage of your time. There's a lot of admin. Certainly when you start at admin level, you've got to, do all those orders and check them against an order confirmation that comes in and raise the purchase order and count queries and something's got stuck in the warehouse.
It's not quite the glamorous.
No, it's mundane, poorly paid office lackey.
Yeah.
But
So
you
what-
see the
so
progression
what's-
opportunity.
Okay. Because you worked, I mean, we've said you were at Selfridges for 12 years, but you worked all the way up to head of buying,
Yeah.
essentially, didn't you? And
Yeah.
and that's across all departments: menswear, women's wear, accessories, and then more beauty as well. 'Cause
Yeah,
you've-
so I moved across different departments because I saw that was a way to. Some people just stayed in one department, and other people like myself kind of moved into other areas because I just saw, there's a job coming up there. I'll try different areas. And actually, I really enjoyed that. You learn a lot from different parts of the business as well. So.
And while you're at Selfridges and presumably working your way up, you're bringing some seriously big products to market, essentially. I mean,
Yeah.
things that now in 2024 are absolute household names. But can you run us through a few of the things that I mean, I know what you're going to say, but like, I want you to give it to the listener because like these are big brands now,
Yeah.
but you've brought them to market through Selfridges.
Yeah, so you had to be spotting the latest trends and you're getting pitched at all the time by new brands that you'd never even heard of. And you have to make that decision whether this is going to be a big thing or not and make a bet on it. Based on your instinct, based on, I suppose, working in the industry for a number of years, being an expert in the category, seeing what's selling from other brands, but ultimately predicting what consumers want in the future. So Charlotte Tilbury is probably the biggest one. She pitched to us while I was at Selfridges. Obviously, people hadn't heard of Charlotte Tilbury at that time. So we had to really make sure that actually if we were going to give her space in the main beauty hall, that people knew who she was. She had huge ambitions. So it was a big, I suppose, phase of negotiation and kind of working out how we were going to make this as big as her ambitions were, and that we had the confidence as a store to be able to launch this in the way and to deliver the numbers, because we had very aggressive and high volume and sales that brands needed to meet and achieve. So yeah, working on a plan to make sure that when it did launch, it was launched with impact and had a huge amount of scale and customer awareness behind it.
And as I say, now that's a household name, but what stood out about Charlotte Tilbury? Because like you say, she's competing with the Lancoms, the huge makeup brands. What was it about her pitch that you sort of just, I mean, because obviously, like you say, you're essentially a trend forecaster in your industry. What was it about her brand that sort of stood out and you thought, yeah, we can do something really interesting with this?
Yeah, so it was what was happening in the market and how consumers were behaving, actually, and what I suppose, could see as the trends that were happening. And I mean, she's a founder-led brand, so there's a personality behind it. I suppose this was kind of over 10 years ago now. I mean, there's founder-led brands everywhere now, but actually this was kind of when that was really starting to build and people were engaging in people. It was the rise of Instagram and influencers.
Can I be a bit naive and ask a stupid question? Like, a founder-led brand, what does that mean?
Compared to a corporation like the L'Oreal Group or the Estée Lauder Group that own, so Estée Lauder Group own MAC, they own Clinique, they own Estée Lauder, obviously, they own La Mer, lots of brands that are owned by a big corporation, which there isn't, I suppose, a face behind it anymore. I mean, when they started, Estée Lauder was a person and it's still owned by the Lauder family, but there isn't that person behind it that can be the expert.
I see.
And so Charlotte Tilbury was an expert in her field. She was a backstage makeup artist for all of the major celebrities, all of the major kind of fashion shows, did almost every Vogue cover going, the makeup for whoever that person was on the cover of Vogue, which was great. But the reality is the customer doesn't know who the makeup artist is at that time. They didn't know who the hairstylist was. It was about the celebrity and not everything behind the scenes. So there was a big kind of piece that we had to do about, I suppose, bringing her profile to the mainstream customer. Lots of people knew about her in her A-list celebrity world, but actually, how does the Joe public know about that? So that was her being very, I suppose, front and center and a very confident and amazing character that actually she was willing to put her face to the brand and talk about this.
And as we're saying, that's a very new thing. Now we see it, that's the founder of this brand, that's the founder of that brand, that's the founder of this brand. And we're always seeing them. But like
10 years ago, you weren't. But then again, that's the rise of the internet. Again, sounding really old-fashioned, but you never used to be able to find this information out that easily unless you, I suppose, subscribed to a big company report and to see their information, whereas everything's online now. Again, it was the rise of Instagram and influencers, so people connecting with other people that were running businesses. So we're human beings and we have an emotional connection when we see another human being. So that's why these brands started to win. But there were other factors as well, like it was the rise of YouTube, and YouTube was getting really big and people were using it as a search engine and for self-education. So everyone was researching how to create a smoky eye, like a certain glamorous look. They'd Google how to do it and then try it themselves and end up looking like a panda. They're like, I'm not this glamorous woman. So she brought a solution to market where she's like, I will teach you how to create these looks that I create for all these backstage, that I do backstage for all these really glamorous women. So she brought that to the forefront as well and was able to teach people. And yeah, she just disrupted the industry in a different way and was really hands-on and connected with that customer that a lot of the, I suppose, more established brands either weren't doing anymore because they were more established. And I think as a brand grows, they sometimes lose that connection with the customer, or the customer forgets why they started or what that buzz was and hype that they loved about that brand when they first launched.
And it's mad because we're talking about this in hindsight and it just seems so normal now, doesn't it? But like you say, 10 or 12 years ago, this was, brand new cutting edge sort of style stuff. And what about any other brand? I mean, Charlotte Tilbury is huge household name. Yeah. What about, I've got an accessories brand in my mind that you went and brought to market that's very not you. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No.
Juicy Couture?
Yeah, I didn't bring it to market, but it was definitely a brand that I bought when I was buying accessories and when I was buying fashion.
Yeah.
And again, showing our age, but that's come full circle and it's having a heyday again.
Yeah.
With I suppose the whole nostalgia fashion that again makes me feel ancient. But actually, it was one of my favourite brands to buy, and I would never wear a juicy tracksuit.
That's nothing against anyone that would wear a Juicy Couture tracksuit.
I mean, never say never. It was just fun because, like, when you're a buyer, you don't buy for yourself. People think, oh, it's funny to buy things you like. And it's like, no, you don't. You have to think about who your customer is. And you'd obviously within Selfridges, you'd have lots of different types of customers that came in. And you'd think, okay, I can picture this girl, this woman, and what she's wearing. And if she's wearing juicy, she wants everyone to know it's juicy. So it's got to be the brightest colour. It's got to have the most amount of diamantes on. And the blingiest ever. So you were kind of like, okay, which one is the most outrageous? Right, that's where we're going to put all the volume of sales in.
But knowing you how I know you, like I'm going to ask probably an obvious question, but as a buyer, you say you don't buy for yourself, but somewhere along the line there must be like your taste must come into it somewhere. How do you separate your taste from that of the I know customers are going to like this, but I would never wear that. So there must be a conflict when buying. And
actually, when it's so extreme, it's almost easier. But then you learn your lessons very fast. When I was buying accessories and buying Marc by Marc Jacobs bags, and I love teal and green. Customers don't. And I put a huge amount of volume behind these really nice emerald green bags and didn't put much volume behind the orange ones, which sold out in about 3 days. And then I had to look at these green bags every time I went on the shop floor, almost like every day, just sat there and every report at the top going, zero seller, zero seller, zero seller. And they're just not selling. And you're like, oh no, this is a real faux pas. So you do learn quite quickly.
You can't get it right every time.
No, you can't. No,
that's impossible.
No, right? It is impossible. So yeah, then you have to work out how to try and sell them or, negotiate different terms with brands and things like that. So yeah, it's a combination.
But I think that's interesting. Like you say, you're really learning how to spot those trends and see them. Presumably, well, fashion's so fast moving, isn't it? You're always a season ahead.
Well, you're planning a season ahead.
Yeah, you're planning a season. Yeah, we know what we mean. And you've always been very goal driven, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because did you set yourself a target of being head of buying before a certain age?
Yeah, I wanted to be a buyer by the time I was 30.
And when did you?
That was my big one. I was 29.
So you smashed it. Perfect. Exactly. So smashed being a buyer earlier than you expected. So then once you've achieved that goal, what's the goals after that?
Well, I just thought about climbing next rung of the ladder.
But was that within Selfridges, or were you already sort of thinking you might be itching to maybe do something else? Or go a bit more freelance?
At the time, it was, always within Selfridges. I thought always within retail. I thought I would always work for a company. I never thought I'd have my own business.
And is that something to think about? Bearing in mind Selfridges is as well known as it is, are you sort of going in there going, yeah, I mean, you were there for 12 years, but sort of has some prestige of working for that brand? So again, always thinking a lot more long-term within your career within Selfridges rather than I'm going to jump ship of the big...
Although there was a couple of milestones I hit, and it was like 6 years. I was like, I've been here for a long time. Like, again, going back to like school, I was at school, senior school for 6 years. I was like, that's a long time. And now I've been here longer than I was at school. And then I was getting to 10 years, and I was like, 10 years is a really long time. And people either came to Selfridges and didn't last very long because they were like, wow, this is mad, or they loved it. And some people were there 10, 15, 20 years. I've still got a friend there that she's been there 25 years.
Really?
She's head of buying. So, and I was like, I don't want to get stuck here. Like, it was my first job and I love it, but I don't want to be here forever. I feel like there's more out there for me.
Was there a catalyst or any specific moment that made you sort of go, right, now's the time to maybe think about leaving Selfridges?
Yeah, I was thinking about it after the 10-year point. And then as you go further up the ladder, there's less opportunities, there's less jobs. I'd gone for a couple of things internally. They hadn't worked out. So there was a couple of internal things that had gone on, and I was thinking about it. And yeah, so that was kind of the opportunity for me to see what else was out there. And
what else was out there? What were you looking at? What was the plan?
Again, I didn't really have... Again, it was more of a plan what I didn't want.
Okay, say more.
So, which I think, in a way, by doing that, I mean, I'm not pigeonholing myself, this is exactly what I want. It's like, right, I can discard some stuff. I didn't want to go to another retailer in the UK because I didn't think I would be learning a huge amount, and I wanted to progress, and I like learning. And I thought going to an online retailer, because I hadn't worked for a pure play online retailer, would be interesting. So that was kind of, I was open to that. I thought about going abroad. I started interviewing for a job in Hong Kong.
Really?
Yeah, which didn't progress.
What was the job in Hong Kong?
Lane Crawford, which is a big department store, luxury department store there. So thinking of like completely moving.
I mean, as we said, they don't get much bigger than Selfridges, though, do they?
No,
really,
well, that was the challenge.
Yeah.
Of what to do next, because I was like, oh well, I've worked in. Well, it's been voted multiple times the best department store in the world. So how do you top that?
Is that that must be quite nerve-wracking, thinking I'm leaving the top department store in the world to go and pursue
something else.
I don't really know
what. Yeah, but I just knew it was time. I was like, I'm done. And also, like, I had a great time and I loved it, and I didn't want to start resenting it or not enjoying it as well. So
I understand that. Perfect.
Yeah.
So you leave Selfridges, the big safety of the big super brand, and you move from Selfridges to another quite well-known brand.
Yeah, Soho House.
What were you doing for them?
So Soho House, obviously, most people know as membership clubs. And
for those who don't know, it's a posh membership club that you can find in every major city of the world.
Yeah. And
it's a very posh brand.
Yeah, it's for creatives. And it was kind of created, I think, in 1998. For I suppose, there was lots of city clubs and gentlemen's clubs in St James's, and there wasn't anything for creatives in kind of places like Soho. So yeah, that's how it started. And now, it's a huge company,
a behemoth.
Globally.
So sorry, what did you go in and do for Soho House?
So they have two retail brands. They have a brand called Cowshed, which is a beauty brand. So they created that to have spas in the clubs. A lot of the clubs have rooms, so like a hotel. So they created spas for that experience, and then products, which were then sold into retail. And then they also launched a interiors range called Soho Home, which was to, again, sell the beds, the furniture, the glasses, the cutlery. Everyone goes to the houses, and, well, a lot of people pinch the salt and pepper shakers, the towels from by the pool.
So to give people the opportunity to actually buy it rather than nick it. Okay.
And people were like, where's that bed from? Or where's this? And everyone wanted to buy the stuff and recreate that look at home. So they saw the opportunity and launched a brand to sell into retail.
And is that something you heard about, or they advertising for the position? Because presumably your network of working with Selfridges for 12 years must be huge.
Yeah. I actually followed somebody that I worked for at Selfridges. So she'd moved over, and then she was like, what do you think? And she knew I was looking.
Okay.
I'd been looking for a little while, but just hadn't seen the right thing. And I thought, do you know what? This is different. I'll be sitting on the other side of the table to buyers. So I was director of sales, so wholesale into retailers, merchandising, so back to that stock allocation fun, which I thought I'd escaped from. The spas. So yeah, much more operational, which was quite different. Product development for beauty.
Was that weird being on the other side, like going to see presumably buyers that you probably knew most of them?
Ish.
Did you?
Not that well, but yeah, buyers are hard work. They're hard to deal with. They're very busy. Like their remit, they're managing. I mean, I was Selfridges. I managed 400 brands and had quite a small team, so it's very hard to keep up regular communication with your suppliers. It's very frustrating for wholesale teams. So I was then in that role.
And sorry, just to take you back to being a buyer, do you get people finding out who you are and then suddenly you're bombarded with emails of, I've got the next...
Yeah.
Like,
bombarded. Sometimes you'd come back to your desk and I'd have multiple meetings a day, kind of 8 to 10, like crazy. Come back to my desk, like, I just need to do a bit of work. And you'd come back and and your whole desk was like piled with boxes of products. Which, I mean, it sounds amazing, but I just need to sit at my desk and do some emails. And I've got like 8 boxes sat here, which, I mean, poor me, I've got loads of free beauty products.
Yeah, champagne problems.
Which was, I know, amazing. But yeah, I mean, you're inundated with pictures. I mean, retailers now, and there's more brands out there than ever, retailers now, like each department will probably get 100 emails a week from new brands wanting to pitch.
That's a lot. I mean, until you start actually thinking about it, you just see, you see a product on market and you don't see all the work that it's taken to get there, or the meetings or the stalking of buyers or whatever. Not saying that you've been stalked.
No, but people do stalk. I've heard some horror stories. I haven't really been stalked. So I heard of somebody once when it was a retailer that you drove to work, so not central London, and someone's saying that she's like, "What?" I was talking at an event and someone put their hand up and they said, "Oh, well, I waited in the car park and then waited for them to come out of work and then I followed them." And I was like, "You did what? It's not going to get you in."
No, that's not going to be, no. Anyway, we digress. So you've gone off to be on the other side of the table for Soho House.
Yeah.
Like, how long were you there? What?
Year and a half.
And did it hit the same? Did it land the same for you? Was it?
It was not right for me.
No.
And I missed working with multiple brands. I think having worked in buying and always working with lots of different brands and having lots of suppliers, I felt like just working with 2, I was like, this is, I don't know, it just, it wasn't right for me. I found it a bit, it wasn't slow because there was an enormous amount to do and I had a big team, but yeah, it just
something missing.
There was something missing. It wasn't right for me.
So after Soho House, another huge brand, where does the journey of Wizz Selvey take you?
Well, I started a consulting business, which I've been doing for the last 6 years, which is, again, taken me to work with some amazing retailers and brands. And my business model has evolved dramatically over that time. Yeah, starting to be an entrepreneur was a very different journey that I was not expecting. So,
can you say more on that? When you're saying you've started a consultancy business, that's Wizz&Co.
Yeah.
And can you say a little bit more about what you're trying to do for that? Obviously taking the knowledge that you've gained over all this time doing what you do, but now being hands-on specifically for individual projects, those people that want to get their product to market, you go in and be that mentor.
Yeah. So I actually have a few different ways of working with businesses. I mean, you hear lots of people saying, "Oh, well, you really need to nail exactly what you're going to do and work with one type of client or customer."
Sorry, is this within consulting?
Well, yeah, I think within any business, within consulting, or if you've got a brand
down.
or niche down. And I mean, I do niche down to the retail industry and to brands, but then there's still a lot within that. So I have different revenue streams, so I can help businesses at different stages of their development. And having been a buyer, I worked with big corporate brands, and I also worked with the small brands and trend spotting them and finding out what the next new brand was that we were going to launch. So I had worked with brands at different stages. So I still do that now, and I enjoy that now. And also the big brands want to find out what the innovation is of what the small brands are doing, and small brands want to know how to be a big brand. So there is synergy about working across both of them. So I have clients now from startup all the way to Unilever.
Oh, wow.
And I've worked with major brands like Ocado, Next, Fenwick on the retail side as well. to working with, a fast-growing online digital retailer at the moment. So, I work across a breadth of them.
How have you had to adapt who you are, what you do, the skill set that you've learnt through Selfridges and all this time being the buyer and, spotting the trends and all that? How have you had to evolve in yourself from being that, I don't want to say it's safe at Selfridges because obviously it's very, but you've kind of got that, you're in the body of Selfridges, so you can always, you've got that backup, that social proof, that what are you coming out and what are you doing when you first start to go, well, I've got to, essentially you're your brand now?
I mean, I didn't have a Scooby-Doo what I was doing, if I'm completely honest with you.
That's good to hear. I don't think
literally had no idea. And I still feel like I'm learning. And that's what I actually enjoy about being an entrepreneur is I'm constantly learning. I learn more in a week than I would do in 3 months in a corporate job.
And is that how you define yourself now? Entrepreneur rather than consultant or?
Yeah, because I'm working out what the clients want. How can I help them? How do I make money? How do I market myself? Yeah, there's a lot of different facets. And what's my business model? That's evolved. And I have, kind of 3 or 4 different ways that I work with businesses. And again, that's evolved from when I started as well. And it's finding out the right way that worked for me and the way I can help brands, I think that was the most challenging thing when I started.
Can you say more on that? Like, what do you think is, apart from your experience, what do you think that you can bring brands that perhaps other consultants, entrepreneurs can't?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's a mixture between my experience over the years, I suppose my skill set and my intuition of what I know I'm naturally good at and how I can combine those to help people. So I know I'm very relatable. I share quite a lot, which I know people connect with me well. I know I inspire people. I mean, I would have had a massive imposter syndrome saying this a few years ago. I know I inspire people. I know I can engage people. And I know when I look at a business, I can probably have a conversation with someone for 10 minutes, probably 5 minutes. I have conversations like when I meet people at networking events. I'm like, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And they're like, oh my God. Like,
it's a light bulb moment.
Yeah,
for them,
and I can just see, if they tell me their problem, I can say, well, this is what you need to do. And then off they go. It's done. So a lot of the work I do is kind of business coaching and business mentoring. And it's a combination of training, strategy, and teaching them about what they might need to know about the industry, whether that's working with retailers, how you build the brand, what your commercial sales channels are, how you market yourself, how you refine your positioning to get more standout. But I actually don't need very long with people. We can get to the crux of their problem quite quickly and be like, right, this is what you need to do. And then I kind of support them over a period of time through coaching and mentoring packages to be able to help them deliver that. Because then a lot of other stuff comes up. Yeah,
of course. And I mean, we're in a time now where everyone's got a course and everyone's got this, but your social proof is undeniable of why and how you know what you know. There's a lot of charlatans in your game, though, isn't there, running courses? And
it's easier than ever to make a brand. It's easier than ever to create an online course. And
so I think what I'm trying to say is I think the thing that sets you and Wizz&Co apart is, as I say, not to bang on about Selfridges, Charlotte Tilbury, Juicy Couture, Soho House, Fenwicks, all these Dermalogica, whoever the brand is, you've got the social proof to do it, rather than just going, well, I started an Instagram account, built up loads of following, and now I tell people how to run a business. But, but as I say, your social proof is up there, and also you don't need a huge amount of time you can look at someone's business quite simply and go, oh yeah, you can do this, this, and this, and you can move that on quite quickly. So how has Wizz&Co grown as a result of you doing all this networking and getting in front of people and as I say, you've got small products to huge Unilever style corporation. How do people find you? How does that relationship interaction work?
Well, I mean, I was, amazing. Worked at these huge brands, Selfridges. You leave Selfridges, no one gives a shit who you are.
But your network
do, but they haven't got time to meet you. Like, you're really important when you're at Selfridges, then you don't. So, someone might say, if they need some help if they still remember you, oh, you should talk to that person. But you have to stay top of mind. So I've built...
Is that weird for your ego? Like your head of buying at Selfridges, and like I say, everyone knows you, and then suddenly you can't get a call with someone that you would have just literally would have been clamouring to speak to you 2 months ago.
Yeah. So then for me, again, it depends on your style. I was like, well, I need to build a personal brand, and I'm teaching people how to build a brand. So why don't I apply a lot of that formula that I've told everyone else that they should do and apply it to my own business? So practice what you preach. How did I find it? Scary, nerve-wracking, imposter syndrome, self-doubt, lack of self-worth. I still get all of that stuff, but I've invested a lot of time and money and energy into my own self-development through my own working with coaches and mentors and being in masterminds and doing the work and clearing the blocks and the self-doubt and the fear. I've had deep-rooted fear, and doing work on my money mindset, and done a hell of a lot of work to move through it.
You've invested a lot in yourself to progress.
A huge amount. And I mean, it hasn't been plain sailing. I mean, I started my consultancy business and then COVID hit and I lost all of my clients. I started from scratch again. I built up the online training programs because, quite frankly, I had nothing else to do. Right. I had no personal brand then. So I started doing webinars. I'd never done a webinar. I did one webinar and I had one person turned up. But I did that webinar and then she got an amazing experience because she got some free business coaching in it.
She got one-on-one.
One-on-one. Amazing. Coaching. I mean, I haven't done a webinar for a while now because it's so back then. Everyone prefers in-person things. But the last one I did, I had over 200 people attend. So I went from one. Yeah. Because one person, that very important one person came, and I'll never forget that and her. And to then getting 200 people coming. But that doesn't happen overnight. That you just kind of have to build that up.
You're quite adaptable then.
Yeah. But I get bored quite easily.
Though?
Yeah, I like the challenge. I like doing new things. And also, even back when I was at Selfridges, I was there for 12 years, but I had 7 jobs and I worked in multiple departments. I'd always be like, right, what's next? So I just love learning, I think, and learn like a new challenge.
A bit of continued personal development never hurt anyone.
Yeah.
So you've come out of COVID, you've done these webinars, presumably everything's quite online at that point.
Yeah.
How has your business, how has Wizz&Co changed since obviously the initiation of it just before COVID, where you've got all these clients and then suddenly that all stops? Yeah.
So it's just, evolved week by week, month by month, really. And I think as we kind of came out the pandemic, the world opened up a bit more. I'd built my profile more and more people knew who I was. I was doing more public speaking. I was getting more inbound inquiries about how to work together. I learnt sales, which I think is hugely important. I was quite scared of selling. Again, quite linked to self-worth and having the skills to sell, which I didn't quite understand.
Which I find so interesting because of everybody, I've got this thing, you beat imposter syndrome by just giving yourself lots of undeniable evidence that you've done the thing that you say you're going to do. And you've got you have got brands galore, Selfridges, Soho House, all these huge brands, these things. But yet it's interesting to see that deep down, we all suffer for a little bit with that imposter syndrome, that self-worth thing. Even when you've got that proof that you can do it, you've done it. I had crippling self-doubt. I also burnt out quite seriously at the end of 2019. So, I had to pull myself out of that through a lot of work, dedication to myself. Is that just because you're burning yourself out trying to make a success of everything you're trying to do?
Which actually, and I think burnout is, I was addicted to work and I am addicted to work and I have to really practice not working all the time because I make myself ill.
Were you addicted to work when you're at Selfridges, or is that a newer thing because it's more wrapped up in you, your own business, your own self-worth, as we talked about before?
I think it's all intertwined because, again, Selfridges was an identity. It was like, wow, Wiz works at Selfridges. She's really cool. And then, once you start to unravel, who am I without work? Who am I?
Well, a lot of us just define ourselves. I'm Matt Wilson. I'm a photographer.
Completely. And that's how we're taught to define ourselves. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you take that away. What do I enjoy doing? And I was always like, well, I love work and I love having my business and I love my industry and I do. But then I burnt myself into the ground and chained myself to a desk. And so the pandemic didn't help with then losing clients and income. So yeah, there was just a lot to unravel. And I think a lot of that, I think any kind of addiction or burnout or whatever, it's a distraction from dealing with some stuff you probably need to deal with, quite frankly. Yeah. So I've unraveled a lot of things that I needed to deal with.
Yeah, but that's brave in itself because a lot of people won't even do that internal work to look at that.
No.
Do you feel like you're much more confident now in yourself and what you do, having done this self-work? And as I say, how does that work? Employing because I've always been interested in the idea of having like a coach or a mentor or something. Is that something you'd recommend?
Oh, 150 million%.
Well, that seems like a good cause.
I wish I'd done it sooner.
Can you say more about that? Why? I mean, obviously, I look at it from I'm this artistic, creative person, as are you, but I've never really thought about maybe how a business mentor or someone like that could help me as such. So, I mean...
Yeah, I think on a very, I suppose, top line and basic level, it's find somebody who's got more experience than you and will help you get where you want to go quicker. Because if they've got more experience, you can fanny around for ages trying to work out what to do and make a load of mistakes. And you're still going to make mistakes, but why not get someone to help you and teach you what the right path is? We all get in our head all the time. So that's just being able to talk things through with somebody can be much easier. Accountability. Well, I want to maybe you want to work with 3 new clients of this profile by then. Mm-hmm. And they'll be like, okay, well, how are you going to get there? How are you going to get in front of these people? How are you going to market to them? How are you going to create them into your network? What's your plan? Or you could be like, oh, they might just come to me. And then I was like, well, when do you want to do that by? And so you start to have this accountability and you can set a plan. And I mean, accountability is a really key thing. You show up for yourself if you're doing it with someone else and you're paying someone to listen to you and help you. And you can ask a friend, but a friend's always got an opinion.
Yeah, very true.
And it's their opinion and it's their agenda. Yeah. And it's their self-doubt that they are projecting onto you.
Interesting.
So I think particularly as an entrepreneur, and I found this when I started my business, a lot of my friends were in industry and then they just don't understand. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing that. It must be so scary. It must be, what do you think? Like, where's the next money coming from? I couldn't do that. And you're like, well, yeah, obviously that's going through my head, but thanks for just making me feel worse about it. But then you work with a coach and like, okay, well, let's put a plan in place. Well, how are we going to get there? And what are you really worried about? And what else do we need to do around that to try and solve some of that fear and that self-doubt, as well as what's this forward-looking plan that we're going to get to?
I think that's interesting. I think in some ways what I'm trying to do with the podcast. If I can go and I'm being essentially quite selfish. I'm sitting down with you, someone I've known for ages, but I'm asking the questions that I want to know the answers to, essentially.
Oh, I haven't sent you the invoice yet.
Yeah. But I think that's what I'm trying to do. It's like, how can we all learn from other people? Yeah. And like you say, you're not my mentor, so perhaps the invoice could just stay here. But
I don't think you'd listen if I told you.
But that does sort of, I mean, that's kind of also why I've got you on, because we're going to go into a few sort of more specific things that we can do to help develop brand and identity later on. But where are you in Wizz&Co now? Obviously, you've been established for quite a long time now, and presumably you've got a really nice client base. What sort of work are you doing right now as Wizz?
So right now, I'm working with an online retailer. So I've been working with them for a while and looking at their buying strategy and their kind of brand acquisition plan and how they scale. I'm working with a finance platform that does a lot of, helps a lot of brands to scale. So I'm doing some stuff behind the scenes with them. I've got 4 brand founder clients across, different categories from, wellness to fashion. And so helping them with different elements of kind of how to scale their business to the next level ultimately. So that's through their positioning in the market. That's looking at their approach to retailers. It's if they're already in retailers, how do they make more money from that? How do they create more commercial channels through their direct to consumer as well? So a few different things going on.
It's a lot.
Which is good.
It's a lot. And you've also now sort of with all your busy consulting and the Wizz&Co stuff, not satisfied with that, you've teamed up to be a partner in a whole other company, right?
After saying I would never have a brand because that would be mad, and I see working with lots of other brands how much it takes to do.
Is that just your knowledge?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a brand because you see how much it takes to bring that thing to market.
Yeah. And well,
so there's
a lot of brands out there, and it's got to be something that there's a real gap in the market because there's a hell of a lot of brands out there.
So what can you tell us? I don't know how much you can tell us because obviously it's not launched yet, but can you tell us a little bit about this brand? Can you tell us what about this brand that it was that stood out to you that went, ooh, this could be very interesting? Because it must have been something that triggered you, because obviously you don't invest in a brand when you say you're never going to have your own brand. When you say you're never going to have your own brand and then suddenly you go, oh, I've now got my own brand.
I know, you never know what's on the horizon.
So what was it about this?
Well, it was kind of a series of events, really. And I had, at some point I was thinking I want to be part of some brands, and I was just doing lots of bits of things. So I started to pivot a bit my thought process of actually I'd rather be part of more brands for a longer period of time and could see a bigger return, and I suppose an invested more of a partnership kind of thing. So I'd explored that with a couple of other people that just hadn't worked out. So I'd had those conversations. So I'd been thinking about it, but I was like, oh, these aren't right. So I was still thinking maybe it's not right to start a brand. And then, I don't know, I had just this feeling last summer that I wouldn't be doing the same. I'd be doing something different this time next year. I just kind of had this feeling. And I thought, also, I think with a lot of the self-development work I've done, I've learnt to listen to myself and listen to my intuition and work out what's the monkey mind and self-doubt and what is...
Would you say you're better at pushing yourself out of comfort zones now you've done that work on yourself?
Yeah, massively.
And is this pushing you out of a comfort zone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was like, I don't know what it's going to be, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear space so I can work out what it is. So I'm going to there's things I can stop doing. I can stop marketing myself so much. I can stop doing so much speaking unless it's paid speaking engagements. I can, just pull back on some things and work it out. And then I bumped into somebody that I knew socially, this guy called Ollie, at an event. Never knew what he did. I'd never had a work conversation. And I was like, oh, what are you doing here? And he was like, oh, I've just finished working at this supplement brand. He was managing director there, and he's just started doing consultancy, and he was looking for a co-founder. And I was like, oh, okay, let's have a coffee. So we went for coffee, and he said, oh, I'm starting this brand in the menopause space. He'd worked in supplements for 15 years and close relationship with his mum, and realised there was nothing on the market that could really help her through menopause. So thought, actually, there's something here. Started doing something and then parked it because work was so busy, and there's some of these big companies he was working with, these fast growth companies, and then left there to do consulting and I suppose scratch this itch, but wanted a co-founder with a complementary skill set.
And then much more complementary skill set than you, right?
No, exactly.
To bring a product to market. He's got all the presumably technical supplement.
And digital. Side. He's strong e-commerce background, right. Finance, the ops. So I get to do what I think's the fun stuff, and he gets to do what he thinks the fun stuff. And
how's that going?
Yeah, really good. So we decided to do that in October. We announced it publicly in February time.
Mm-hmm. And what's the company called?
Raising investment. It's called Valerie.
Okay.
Which means strength and vitality in Latin.
Ah.
So it's very exciting. So fundraising at the moment and then launching in the summer. So come and watch the space and follow.
Definitely. And what about, because that's very niche. Is that part of the thing? The menopause market, supplements for the menopause, that's very niche. And is that...
It's not niche because 50% of the population go through the fucking menopause, which I think...
That was such a man thing to say.
But this is the point. Thanks for mansplaining that.
No, because I'm interested. So what... Well, I don't want ingredients, but what is it?
Exactly.
Like, how does it help women going through menopause?
Exactly. And there's so much, and actually people are now talking about it, which is amazing. But it's the same as girls starting their periods. Mm-hmm. It's women stopping their periods, ultimately. And you think about adolescence and puberty, and I'm sure men can relate to when they went through puberty that, God, your hormones are all over the place as well. And yours just slowly decline with testosterone, but women's go absolutely mental, sometimes for up to 10 years before your periods stop.
Wow.
So it can start affecting people late 30s until their periods stop, which could be between 48 and 43 on average. And people think they're going mad. And more people are prescribed antidepressants than they are hormone replacement therapy. And lots of people don't want to take hormone replacement. Hormone replacement therapy. And there's been a lot of scaremongering around HRT, and people want natural options as well and to look after their health. So we'll be offering various different solutions. From supplements and integrating, digital and technology to be able to help people on their journey.
That's amazing. And obvious question, how is it working for your own brand, trying to bring that to market rather than going, obviously you're more invested, right? In this than say, oh, someone's come with me and, oh, this is a great product, but it's not my product to bring to market. So if it doesn't get to market, big deal. Can you talk on how, is there a difference in how you're feeling? Do you feel more responsibility towards the Valerie brand? Do you feel? I feel like I've got I feel like this is my purpose and this is my calling in life. And that's extreme. Talk more on that. Your calling in life. Why your calling?
To help women through this, what can be a really challenging stage, and also having gone through burnout and having high anxiety and imposter syndrome and everything. I mean, these are all symptoms that happen when your hormones fluctuate. But also anxiety is huge in that. And I've been through that in burnout. There's horror stories around people committing suicide because of their hormones at a very extreme level. And it can be really crippling for people. Some people sail through fine. And again, with everything, there's different varying levels of it. But if you can help some people through that. So I turned to a lot of holistic help. I've been doing a lot with supplements and nutrition, as well as doing a lot of kind of yoga, meditation, things to reduce anxiety for myself personally. So I've been talking about all this stuff for ages, and everyone's like, you need to do something with this. Like, you've got so much knowledge and your experience, and how do you apply that to something? And then, I still now, I'm like, I know some of it's burnout, but is some of it still burnout, or is some of it now I'm in perimenopause? It's impossible to know half the time. But if you can help women navigate this and get them back to feeling how they were, people lose confidence. People leave jobs because of this. Again, at an extreme level. But ultimately, if you're just on that surface level, how do you just empower people to feel better and get back to them who they really are?
And do you think that'll become, obviously it's a supplement entity, but do you think the Valerie brand will become something a bit more holistic and like, we've got meditation retreats, or
we've got a lot of big plans.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's more than a supplement. And
that's and knowing you how I know you, I can see that's about developing that brand, isn't it?
Definitely.
You go, well, why would we stop at a supplement when we could do this, or we could do workshops for women going through this sort of stuff? Yeah,
there's a lot of plans. And our supplement is completely revolutionary in the market. There's no one else doing a supplement like we are, which we're super excited. That's just come off stability testing and has all passed, which is great. We're just about to go into consumer trials, making sure it works on real people. Now it's all passed.
God, that sounds complicated.
And then we've also built a founding community already of over 200 amazing women, even before launch, that are helping us kind of on business decisions of what branding they like and logos and what flavors they'd like the product to taste of and things like that. So we want to kind of really build this community around it as well. And I suppose a lot of my learnings from Soho House and membership clubs as well, bringing that in, that actually relating to a brand, particularly when it's something that's personal around your health, I think is really important. So that's going to be a big part of it.
That's super cool. And you're clearly very passionate about it.
Yeah.
So you're calling. I was quite surprised to hear you say that, Wiz, to be fair. But no, that's amazing. And I look forward, and if there's anything we can do to get it out there, promote it, whatever.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. But you're still carrying on with all you're balancing your brand consultancy, Wizz&Co, alongside Valerie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're in scale-up, startup mode at the moment. So,
wow.
It's running both businesses at the same time.
Do you worry you might burn out again?
All the time. I worry about that every day, and I have done. That's probably one of my biggest fears. Yeah. It's like, well, to keep telling yourself, well, I won't, because I'm not the same person I was back then, but I have to put practices in so I don't. So, this has been a big challenge around that. To
But learning those skill sets along the way, like
Yeah.
you say, throughout that 20-year career of the things that you need to monitor to keep yourself. Okay, so I think we've got to where we need to get. Now I feel like we need to utilize your skill set. I genuinely believe that we all need a little bit of help, as you said, with mentors and things like that. And I think there will be a lot of creatives, artists, creative entrepreneurs, hopefully listening to this. And I've sort of asked you to help us out a little bit, and with some, what are we calling this? There's some top tips for creatives to build brand, build identity. I mean,
make money.
Of course.
Stand out, market yourself and make money.
Which, of course, is, we've spoken about it already, the starving artist syndrome. We're just, it's drilled into us. You can't make any money as an artist and stuff like that. So in your vast experience, Wizz, you're going to sort of help us out with a few points. How many do you reckon have you got? A few? Five top tips for creatives.
Yeah. So
do you want to start us off? Do you want to go through and explain each one, and we'll have a little chat about them and see if we can add some value to the people listening?
Yeah. So I talk a lot about kind of your elevator pitch. So how do you very succinctly explain what you do that also is kind of create a bit of emotive connection with somebody and make them interested? And a lot about that is how are you solving someone's problems, which you think is a creative, well, I'm not solving anyone's problems, but you probably are. You're bringing joy to their day if it's something that's visual and it's in their home and they get to look at it all the time. So I think really starting to think about what is it you're providing people, other than maybe if it's a physical thing, but kind of how are you bringing more joy to their life through what you're doing or through the experience that you're providing. And who ultimately is your customer as well? Who is your ideal customer or client? I think is really important to try and get
I'm going to push back a little bit, because should an artist create with a customer in mind? Or, I'm talking about an artist, and there's lots of levels of creativity and probably lots of people with their own goals, businesses, whatever they're trying to do. But, okay, selfishly, I'm trying to build the artist kind of within me. Do you think an artist should create from the heart or with a client in mind or a customer in mind?
I think it's a balance of both, because, well, if you don't need to make money, cool. But do these people, do you want to make money?
Yeah, of course.
And I suppose, and it's not of course, because actually some people can be creatives. I mean, I think everyone's creative, aren't they? And I suppose it's whether you're using, I suppose for the purpose of this, let's say that you're creative and you want to make money, because that's the skill set that I can, I suppose, help you think about with making money. Yeah. And then it's thinking about that balance of where do you make your money versus what's your creative avenue and you just do it for yourself. Because actually, if you had a consistent income and never had to worry about your bills, think how much more creative you could be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, why do you have to be super creative all the time? What if you could just give yourself that security to then be able to go off and do whatever you want whenever you want?
Yeah.
So I think people sometimes see money as a bad thing, but if you have the money, you can then do what you want, and then you could do as many
money
creative
buys freedom,
things you want. It does buy you freedom.
Freedom and time.
Yeah,
Okay, so first point is you've got to know who you're creating for.
Yeah, if you want that revenue channel that's going to give you that consistent income, which I think for the purpose of this is probably the most helpful thing that I can provide today, is who is that customer and who is that client? And maybe if you don't want to have to spend loads of time on that revenue generating thing, well, okay, who's got the most money? Like, to be really blatant about it and be like, okay, well, I'll go to those people. Let me do my research. What's the sort of art are they buying? What do they like? Where do I find them? And that might just be around your marketing and how you position yourself. That might not be the actual product or the output that you're selling. So that might just link to knowing your customer and where they are and where you want them to discover you.
Someone once told me that there's a market for everything. You've just got to find it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm just I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. Yeah. I'm sat there imagining someone going, well, I create solid black canvases with, I don't know, something obscure on, and you think, oh, that's, where am I going to find a customer for that?
Yeah. Well, first thing came to my mind, a Rick Owens customer, someone who buys that fashion, or Rick Owens himself.
But going back to what we said, there is a market for everything, but it's about that creative finding the market. That was a question, by the way. I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's understanding who might want to buy that. And yeah, you don't want to be selling a big bit of black art to somebody that, I don't know, wears a cardigan and likes a coffee and tea in the local tea shop.
So going back to your first point about knowing who your customer...
Yeah, maybe you want a high fashion customer that's wearing Rick Owens and kind of got that kind of really cool vibe going down. Where are they hanging out? What are they doing? How do you get in front of that customer and in with that crowd and market kind of within that area? So it's not creating something just for that customer that doesn't align to you and your values. Right. It's finding the customer that relates to what you do. It's a bit like me saying, well, actually, I want to do business coaching and mentoring to gymnastic teachers. I'm like, well, what's the point in me doing that? I'm going to do that to people who work in business coaching and mentor them to people that work in retail and in brand building.
Yeah, of course.
Because that's where my skill set is. That's the area that I enjoy. So what's your creative output and how do you align that with that customer? So it's not about doing something that's completely against your values.
But I can imagine that there's someone sat there listening to this going, oh, my stuff's so weird and so bizarre that no one.
There's a lot of weirdos out there.
But that's reassuring to know that it's about finding those people who are into whatever it is you're creating. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
And within the price point that you want to charge or you feel like you can charge.
Yeah. Okay. Next point.
Yeah. So my next point, well, I kind of feel like I've already talked about this, is where is your ideal customer? Which ultimately is like, how do you market to them as well? So yeah, going back to you create the art, you love it, it's an expression of you, and who's the customer that would potentially want to be buying that? Are you promoting yourself and your work within those circles?
Right.
So finding out where those people hang out, really.
Okay.
So almost doing like a customer profile of who are they, what do they do, where do they hang out, what do they do,
and I think that's something I'd imagine
socially, or what clothes do they wear, and
I
how do they
imagine
spend their
artists
time.
and creative are reluctant to that. I've done it, but I've only done it recently with, again, where I think the art that I create and who might be my customer. And it was hugely eye-opening. But again, I think it's something that a lot of, maybe it's the artist doesn't see themselves as a business idea, that they don't have to do that sort of meta-analysis or whatever that is. Do you think that's a problem for fluffy creatives?
Yeah, and like, I'm very creative, I'm very commercial. Like, I hate doing a spreadsheet. I hate doing a big document. Like, that's just not me. So I get a notebook and I'll go for a coffee and I'll write down, okay, this is what I think I'm going to do. Like, how do you work? Draw a mind map. Like, go through a magazine and get some pictures or stick them on a board. Like, yeah, what works for you?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be something that's really complicated. Think about it. Write it down.
No,
and it doesn't have to be a big thing. And like you say, you found that really helpful. But I think people think this is a constraint and this is a box that I've got to put myself in. And I work with people on their business strategy. I'm like, we're not going to do a spreadsheet. We're going to get one piece of A4 paper. I mean, it could be A3, whatever size you want. And we're going to put your whole plan on one bit of paper.
Great.
Because if it's too big, you're never going to do it and you're never going to look at it. So what's the point? So I think there's a fear around business and how to do it. And I found this when I started my business. I was like, it's got to be complicated and formal and a big strategy. And I'm like, nope, let's get a bit of paper. Let's stick to it. And then let's just remind ourselves.
Perfect. That's very reassuring to hear because I'm sure there will be many creatives who are very resistant to that. Or, I am the arty, but actually if I had a bit of organisation, a bit of structure, a few systems in place, you could probably be much more...
I mean, and a good example of this with my co-founder on Valerie is we've got a pitch deck, we're investing to people, and we were like, I think we need to make some edits to it. So Ollie loves doing it on the big pitch presentation and getting it all organised. So I printed it off and I cut it up with a pair of scissors and I cut and paste on it which bits would go onto new slides.
Brilliant.
And I mean, it looked a right mess. And I then wrote scribbles all over it. And I was like, don't laugh, but this is how I think the layout is. And he was like, great. And then he went and put it all into a pitch deck. And then I did, let's just edit this bit. And I can use a computer. So I did a bit of editing on that. And that was my process around it. So that was quite a creative process to do something that, you think, God, an investment deck. But I was like, well, that's how my mind works.
Right.
I just want to get my Pritt stick out and do that. So I did.
Good second point. That, as I say, I feel like we're sort of tackling all of these as we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
But no, I think all of this is such gold, I think, because there will be people sat there going, oh, I couldn't do that, or I wouldn't do that, or a spreadsheet about this, or analyse my customer. But like you say, it's like, you could just be some words on a scrap of A4 paper going, who do
Post-it note.
Yeah.
Put it on your mirror and look at it every day.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do by then. That's it.
These are genius. Go. Next.
So who's in your network already? I think, and I did this and made this mistake as well. It was like I was trying to market to all new people all the time. But actually, a lot of my business comes through my existing network and through referrals and word of mouth. So don't underestimate people you already know for business.
That's a great point.
And that isn't necessarily them buying your work, but they will meet other people. And if you stay top of mind with them, keep contact with them and put things on social media, they'll think, oh, I remember that. Oh yeah, I think that person really liked Matt's work. I'll send them the link, or I'll tag them. So yeah, just think about staying top of mind and telling people what you're doing in your network is really important. Because I've had a lot of clients that were people that had acquired to work with me 4 years ago, or come through my network that, I used to know years ago. So
I think networking, having a good network is important, whatever industry you're in, presumably. My me being, again, devil's advocate pushback. What about the artists? Oh, I'm just surrounded by other artists and we're all skint and we're all trying to do this. So what?
Work on your bloody mindset.
Well, that's what I was hoping you were going to say. It's like, what's the old adage? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
But I suppose if you're surrounded by other quote unquote starving artists.
If you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't.
Ooh, I like that.
So, I can't because I'm surrounded by this. Well, no, then you can't do it. And if that's going through your head, you're absolutely right. You will not do this and you can't do it. And brutal, but
and it
true.
Goes back to, again, like you had to do and like we've all done at some point, getting out of your comfort zone. If you are that fluffy creative that doesn't want to put yourself in that world, then you're probably not going to get very far. But if you are a bit braver with your actions and go, well, okay, maybe I don't go for beers with all the other fluffy creatives and we're all skint moaning about the art world. Why don't I offer to take someone out for lunch who might be a bit more beneficial?
Well, I'm going to rock up. When I first started my consultancy business, I just went to events on my own. It petrified me. Like I talk on stages now, but I'm actually very shy when I was growing up. And I actually thought it's easier for me to go and talk on a stage and people come to me rather than me go up to a stranger one-to-one and talk to them. Was my mindset, which people are like, oh, that's weird. But honestly, should I talk one-on-one to someone or should I talk in front of 100 people on a stage? I know.
For me, it would be completely the opposite.
Yeah, completely. But naturally, I was always very confident with friends, people I knew, but people I didn't know. Like even at school, people would be like, oh, she's a right bitch. And I'd be like, oh, I'm not. I'm just out there with my friends, but not with people I don't know because I suddenly freeze and become shy. So, I suppose, how do you stay top of mind? And working out your way of doing that and getting into a new network. So going to some different events and, building a network, really.
And like you say, until you've done it, it's always going to be scary.
Yeah.
Right?
Everything's scary. Life is scary. Everything we haven't done is scary.
Change. That's our evolutionary psychology going into it, brain trying to keep you safe and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Okay, your network.
Yeah. And if you are creative, like you've got a creative, like I've got a really creative brain. I've got these ideas. I want to do things. So you just got to work out how, in your own way, you get out of your own way. You think is a big thing. That's
a great getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
Your own insecurities and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's different for everyone, but that's ultimately, we're all trying to keep ourselves safe, which we're trained to do as a brain, but then it
doesn't allow you to grow very far, does it?
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, fourth point is learning sales and work on your money mindset. So,
which I think this is going to be a tricky one for artists and creatives. So go, give us the gems.
Well, having been a buyer, I was scared of sales and thought, I don't want to be pushy, I don't want to be salesy, because I'd been a buyer and had lots of relationships with salespeople. Actually, I had lots of great relationships with salespeople and never thought it was them selling to me. But I've had some awful ones where like, oh my God, these people are really pushy. This is awful. So I kind of almost created this fear of selling to people and asking for money. And also I done advanced negotiation courses when I was in industry about negotiation and money. And I traded a £200 million business and double-digit growth year on year. I then had my own business. Holy shit, it's linked to my self-worth. And I crumbled at a lot of things. And so that's been a massive learning curve for me is, learning sales, things that would come into my head, be like, I can't say that, or I can't tell them how much it is. I'll send you a proposal. I'll email you afterwards a proposal rather than just saying to them, it's going to be this much.
I mean, this is a massive market, but can you give us the 80-20? What are the key things that you think are really important when it comes to selling? Not being too pushy, or
finding your own style and listening to people and what they want. I think you think you have to sell and you think you have to be selling. You don't. You have to work out what that person wants.
Going back to knowing the customer.
Learning about them. Oh, so if you're talking about art, for example, what do you like? What do you have at home? Or have you got any photographs on the wall? Or do you have more paintings? Who's your favourite artist? Start to learn about who what they want and what they like. And you might be like, okay, I've got something for you, or I haven't got anything for you. But you could go in and be like, here's all my art, and it's all multicoloured and blah, blah, blah. But actually, if you'd ask them that question, they like that big black canvas, and you've got some of those that you had on a dark day that you created, and you're like, oh, I should have rolled that out, but I didn't think they'd like that. But you never asked them any questions to find out what they do want and what their interests are.
So learning sales is integral but that goes hand in hand with knowing who your customer is, presumably.
No, because no, you could have just met them, and this is how you get to know your customer.
Right.
Anyone actually could be a customer. I mean, you could have your customer, your ideal person. Yeah. Then you bump into someone, and anybody could be a customer.
True. Okay.
So, and then work on your money mindset. We all have money blocks. When what trying to remove, especially for creatives, that starving artist syndrome that we all think we've got, and that we shouldn't make money from our creativity. How do you there's lots of books out there.
Yeah,
honestly, mindset books. Google them.
So don't come to Wizz for what's the gem that has there been one thing that you've taken away from working on yourself about money mindset that you go, that's the one thing that I go, that's the thing I can't not do now?
Again, it's linked to your self-worth and how you're feeling about yourself and how you build your confidence around that. I think, there's lots of great books out there, and we all kind of have a different type of the way we act around money. Or, I think a classic one is probably I'm creative, so XYZ, but it could be I bury my head in the sand, or I'm scared about talking about money, or people will judge me if I have money. There's lots of narratives.
My first go-to with that is you see the artists that are putting, in some respects, audacious prices on their work, and then you've got the artist that's having to sell 70,000 A4 prints on Etsy for $19.99 to equal the same money.
Yeah,
that's just a mindset thing, right?
Yeah,
potentially, if that person who was trading on Etsy went, no, actually, it's not $19.99 for its £1,999 for this piece.
If that person didn't believe it was worth that, they probably won't sell it.
How do you convince again,
it's a lot of inner work. It's a lot of inner work. Yeah.
We'll have to get
that's years of work, that is.
We'll have to get a money coach on here maybe to help people with things. And your fifth and final gem for us, Wiz?
Build your personal brand. It's free and it's your superpower. And I mean, I suppose this is slightly different with a creative because the output is unique, but you are unique. And I suppose, like you said earlier, is like there's lots of people that could be selling consultancy, and I've got my social proof around businesses I've worked with, but there's only one me in the way I deliver things and the way I'm quite open and honest. And this is, you see what you get, and people will resonate that or they don't, but not everyone has to like you.
And like you say, you are the brand, people buy from people. And that's part of your, working on your personal brand, even down to when you meet a new person, to talk a little bit about what you do and rather than, shy away from that.
Yeah, exactly. So that connection is massive because people buy into people at the end of the day. And again, art's hugely emotive. So if someone's going to buy something and put it on their wall, they want to have they'll either love it and just buy it and that'll be that. Or they'll, I've had a really inspiring conversation with you. And that could be another way that they buy it. So there's different, again, people buy in different ways. But your personal brand is free. And I think telling people about, and I find this as well when I go to an exhibition personally, is you can see a load of art, particularly with abstract art, and you're like, oh, God, what's that all about? But actually, if you start to understand the process around that was created and why, you're like, oh, wow, I see their vision, I understand it. And again, getting that across is a really powerful way, I think, to sell more creative stuff in whatever field that's in.
Yeah, but again, it's a lot of, some people are very comfortable in that situation, developing themselves as the personal brand, and others not so much. But
no one's confident when they start.
Well, I'm going through that, and you said it yourself when you first started doing your online stuff over COVID and all that. It's like, God, one person turned up, but by the end of it, you got hundreds and hundreds turning up.
Yeah, exactly. And no one starts anything and is good at it straight away. It's like walking as a kid. You don't see a kid that tries it 5 times and it's like, I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
Most people can walk.
Yeah,
they're able.
That's a great analogy.
You just do it, and if you think you can't, well, you learn to walk. You could. It's all the other stuff.
But again, it goes back to what you say. If you think you can't, you probably won't.
Yeah, and it's all that other stuff that's been layered and on and conditioned, and what we've experienced as we've grown up and learned and been told, and all of that messy crap.
Yeah,
but you can do it. Like, you couldn't walk, you couldn't speak, you couldn't do this stuff. You did it.
I feel like I'm in that sort of position now, early phases of the podcast, trying to get myself in front of the camera a bit more on social media, explain why I'm even doing Creative Noah Land and all these sorts of things. So, yeah, I can relate. It's not easy, but I'm hoping that it gets easier.
And it's stepping stones as well. It's like, well, you're doing this podcast, this is great. It's not filmed at the moment, like there's a camera on me, but not on you. But next few, there's probably be on kind of on you and the person you're interviewing, and then potentially you might do one live, and then you might talk somewhere else. It's
you're making me nervous, Wiz.
Building your confidence.
You're making me nervous. No. You
don't get on the stage in front of 200 people straight away.
God, no. Have you got anything? What have you got a little takeaway that's helped you with your confidence when you say just before you're going to go on stage in front of 200 people? Have you got a little, I'm a badass, I can do this sort of vibe, or is it just down to mindset and giving yourself irrefutable evidence that I've done this before? So
breathing, actually, breath work, deep breathing, because your anxiety rises and
like the box breathing and all those sorts of things.
Breathe properly. Long and deep and slowly, and box breathing or something like that. And it just calms you down.
Good advice.
Probably the main one
in any situation of anxiety, really. Yeah. Well, Wiz, this has been fantastic. Closing traditions that I'm hoping to build them as a tradition on the podcast. I ask people for a quote that's maybe, I don't know, maybe from you, from someone in your network, from someone famous from 100 years ago. I don't care. That's something that's just sort of sat and resonated with you. Have you got something for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I implemented last year, and I don't know who it is or whether I've made it up or heard it somewhere, but it was slow down to speed up. And I spent a lot of my time busying myself all the time, got to do, stuff, fill my time. But actually, and going back to what you can't buy is time, but actually you can kind of start to see time in a different way if you actually slow down and think about what you want and where you're going and what's important and what you don't need to do, that actually you can speed things up.
Well, there's a big difference in being busy and productive, isn't there?
Yeah, and enjoying life and work.
Yeah, enjoying the process.
Yeah.
That's great. It's, slow down to speed up. Yeah, I like that. And finally, with the tentacles, the spider's web of the Creative Noah Land podcast, I ask every guest to come on to suggest someone else in their network that they think might be inspiring to come and be a future guest on the podcast.
Gosh, I mean, and this was the hard one, and I haven't...
Charlotte Tilbury.
Yeah, go on then. Good luck.
Could you imagine?
And I haven't got an actual one person because I work with so many amazing people, and what I realised was I know a lot of people that are in second careers, which I think's really inspiring. Like, I'm kind of going into my third, really, after working corporate consultancy business, building a new brand. I see a lot of founders out there or people doing consultancy that they've moved into this. So I think, there's just a lot of founders and different creatives and business people out there. And their story brings everything into kind of, I suppose, where they get to in their future second or third or fourth careers, because all of that stuff they've done in the background actually kind of leads them to the path of where they're going to. So,
okay. So is there any second career founders that we could actually get on the podcast that are in?
I'll get you someone on the podcast.
Okay, so we're going to leave it generically open and it'll be a surprise guest from Wizz by the sound of it.
It will.
And possibly Charlotte Tilbury if we work on it, but probably not. Wizz, I'm going to include links to Wizz&Co. Hopefully the Valerie stuff will be out by the time this comes and people can check that out. I'll give all links to all your social media, everything. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you maybe feel like, I know you've done a lot of podcasts and a lot of these interviews and stuff, and I've probably asked you very generic questions and you're bored, but is there something that perhaps the listeners should know that I haven't asked?
I think like we've covered a hell of a lot today. I can't think anything off the top of my head. But yeah, it's been brilliant being on the programme.
Wizz, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for there's a lot of gems of wisdom in there that I'm going to go and try and, in the show notes, compile into a useful bunch of information that creatives, any creative entrepreneur, or anyone starting a brand or looking to get their product to market or whatever. And as I say, anyone wanting to reach out to Wizz, if they have got an innovative project or something that they want to sort of have a chat about, you offer a lot of great advice and there's lots of free resources on your website as well.
I've got loads. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got stuff on my Wizz&Co website around how to build a brand, how to create your elevator pitch and USP, how to pitch to retailers. I've got a lot of free content on there, retail and consumer trends. Sign up to my email list because I put a lot out on there around kind of retail, but also mindset as well. Come and follow Valerie because we'll be doing, especially if you're a woman entering perimenopause or menopause, or if you're a guy that wants to help other people in their lives as well. We're really passionate about helping other people help others. Come and follow us there and come and try our products.
Wizz, it's exciting stuff. I can't wait to see where it's all going to go and whether you'll be on third or fourth, fifth career next time I speak to you. You'll have sent Valerie through the roof and there'll be some new projects on the go probably. But Wizz, thank you again. It's been brilliant.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Noahland podcast. If you found anything inspiring or useful in this episode, please consider subscribing or maybe sharing the episode with a friend. Anything you can do to help promote and support Creative Noahland is so beneficial and I really appreciate it. Check out the website and sign up to the newsletter to be the first to know of everything that's going on here in Creative Noahland. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, explore, inspire and create.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?